Totally. And, there's just a few things that caught flirted with me when you're saying that. I mean, what a beautiful story. And I really I was getting the chills when you're talking about just, grabbing her and kissing her. It's just awesome. But, you both have talked about this because, we chatted a little bit yesterday in preparation for this, but you both talked about that this second time that you met, you actually felt like kind of a channeled energy, that there was something that was moving through both of you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that seems to be a really important piece, that it's not actually the two of you, but it's like something that's flowing through you both that you're creating together. There's almost like a third that's being, and that's really real Tantra, is this like third that is created between the Tantra of the masculine and the feminine, that, it's like this energy that's moving us both together. And so, yeah, you talk about, and things that have come up a few times is this idea of no expectations, right? So now you're in this relationship where you're just letting life flow through you. Mm-hmm. You're just not holding back. You don't have any sort of strings attached. There's no things that have to happen. And you're in this like kind of very, again, now friendly, curious, childlike state. And, always remember that is your myth. And so if you ever, if times ever get tough, those are the things to fall back on. Remember that it wasn't you that picked each other, that it was just like, divine intervention, and use that as your power. And then, get into those states to allow that to flow through you, to get you out of those low dreams and those low moods. And I think it's really interesting. I'm just kind of playing with this in my own head right now, but this idea of the Natural Health Expo, right? Expo is kind of like an exhibition, or it's like a thing where things are just open and displayed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just playing with this idea of obviously the importance of health in your life, now that you're doing a natural health podcast and you met at a Natural Health Expo, but this idea of just being completely open and open source with each other. Mm-hmm. And that is the way to natural health in your relationship.
I love that.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I could just share a quick story about, that this idea of using your dreams to fall back on in tough times. I went through a really difficult divorce, and I was not looking for a relationship. And I met synchronistically again. I met Kara 2 years after I had first met her, and I had this moment where I was with my brother out in California, and all the kids were away with other family members, and I had this moment where I just met Kara the day before, and I decided to do a medicine journey with my brother. I had just gotten out of this divorce. I hadn't really had any kind of experiences like that in probably 2 years. And I just really felt like I needed some bonding time with my brother, to lay down in his garden and take some medicine and to heal. So we're out there in the garden, and this is the day after I met Kara, and all of a sudden I'm having this vision that's coming on of seeing the arc of our whole relationship, from meeting to like death do us part type stuff. And I saw that like the arc of it was positive, that it was a venture worth taking, but that there was going to be lots of high dreams and lots of low dreams, and there's going to be lots of wiggles and waggles along the way, and it wasn't just this like easy straight line. And in that moment, I thought to myself, oh man, I was like kind of giggling, like, am I going to do this again? Like, am I brave enough to jump back in to the lion's den and like open up my heart and be fully vulnerable and go through all of that pain and all of those highs, just for this? And I said, all right, I can do it. I can do it another time. And then I consciously said, I'm going to step into this relationship, despite the fact that I know that it's not going to be all easy, right? I have 2 kids. I just got divorced. I just met this person. I just met her in California, and all of a sudden I'm seeing us spending our life together. And in that same moment, my brother from across the garden yells over to me, she said yes. And so I was like, it just freaking blew my mind, because it's like, I don't know, this whole idea of, non-locality and the shared experience was pretty rad. But in addition, it was just such a confirmation for me that, okay, this is the right relationship. So we went up going on a date a week later to the Wolf Pack. She flies home with me to New York, and we move in together, and we've been together for like 4 years now. We have a 2-year-old son. And my point in telling the story is that that's my personal myth of my relationship. That's my big dream. And so anytime that times get tough, I can use that as my anchor. It's like that's my tool of sobriety. When I get too drunk in the bad moods of a relationship that are inevitable, that dream helps me stay sober. And it also helps me stay sober in the high dreams, knowing that low dreams come from high dreams, right? So it's like that keeps me on that narrow path where knowing that, okay, yeah, things are tough, but you know how this ends. You saw it all, and you chose it. So just hang in there, right? And so to use your kind of the spontaneity and the beauty in which you met and which others meet their partners as this anchor of sobriety throughout their relationship, to be this sort of pilot wave that drives through their life and through their relationship and carries them through all times.
Oh, it's so good. We've never talked about anything close to that or with any guest. We've never had a conversation like this. And it seems now when you speak about it, it's like, yeah, duh. Every relationship should have this anchor point and be able to come back to it when they are going through those low dreams, as you call it, or those bad moods. And curious, do you have any insight into how, if I'm going through a bad mood, or if Chase is going through a bad mood, or both of us, and one of us recognizes, okay, we're in this low dream right now. How do we get back to that anchor point? How could I invite Chase back into our high dream if we are currently both in the low dream? Do you have any pointers or tips or maybe experiences where you or Kara have invited each other back to your high dream?
Yeah. Well, I think, we talk about this idea of the gap. Okay. Here's my high dream. Here's my low dream. And here's where I am. Here's your high dream. Here's your low dream. Here's where you are. What's the gap, right? Hey, my highest hopes and dreams for this relationship are here. I want to have sex 3 times a week, and we're currently having it once a month. And, the other partner is like, well, we're having it once a month, but I want to have it once a year, so I'm just using kind of an extreme example, but it's like we have these gaps. And so what's really important is to really express vocalize, like, what are your highest dreams? Get to know your partner. Like, what do you want out of this relationship? What are you fearing? What are your limits? What are your boundaries? What are your highest hopes and dreams? Understanding that these often come from, mythical parts of ourselves. They come from deep spiritual needs. They come from childhood needs that are not met, or adult needs that are possibly not met. Like, finally, someone's going to love me in this way, or finally, someone's not going to abuse me, or someone's not like my family member, right? And so, in these tough situations, you really have 2 choices. One is, 3. You can stay in a shitty relationship. You can leave the relationship, or you can work on narrowing the gap. So in sustainable relationships, we need to address the gap, right? This is not meeting my high dream. Let's do the work. Where can we meet? How can we close the gap? And really consecrating that, right? Making it vocal and looking at it. My needs are not getting met. I'm here, you're here. Same goes for you, I'm sure, and other things. What do we need to do to close this gap? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to make these changes so we can meet in the middle?
Yeah. No, critical, and that communication that is so critical before there's resistance, before there's charge in a place and time that the relationship is not feeling synchronized, to have these conversations in a sober state of mind, as we have been the last couple of days in preparation for this. Here's my high dream. Here's probably my low dream. And maybe even more importantly, what we were talking about was, what will we feel like when we're in our high dream? What will the signs and signals be in our body and our emotion and things that are happening in our life, so that we can be familiar with them ourselves and for each other? Same with low dream. It's like, when I'm in my low dream, I'm probably going to be externalizing everything, and I'll be doubling down on my efforts and my stress and the push of getting something accomplished. And that'll be feedback that I'm in the low dream of our relationship. And so I think having that conversation in a sober state of mind, so that there is this sort of like accountability to your partner and to the commitments that you've made for your high dream, to get to the point of like, hey, we've outlined these signals, you're showing the signs of being in low dream. And so like even just the practice of us going through that yesterday, to a certain degree, I think is so important in this work.